Welcome to Flow King of the Hill, and welcome to the first of several special programmes that will feature all the rally action from Barbados in the festival fortnight. Starting here on the 4 and a bit kilometres that will decide who is King of the Hill. Serious stuff at King of the Hill. It's shakedown, but it's also seeding and it's everything else as well. How do you approach it? Are you a competitor or a shakedown artist?
Oh, I'm not really very interested in shaking down. The car is working and we've gone through all that stuff. Yeah, you might well go there with some intentions of not being seated too far at the front of the field, but the competitive spirit will then force you to compete to get as high as possible. And it's always a tussle to decide what to do. What's a sensible thing to do. The thing is to remember that there's 4 runs, and on the last one, the chances are that you'll have the best conditions because everything will be swept clean, and you'll be able to execute a best scenario then.
So you'll be going for it every run of those 3 runs?
I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, whatever I tell you here is irrelevant. I'm going to go for it. Period.
King of the Hill itself, it's tempting to think of a shakedown and a seeding exercise for the rally, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's a mind game. You know, it definitely plays on your competitors. If you beat them there, you know, you're going into the following week. It has them on their toes, and it's psychological. So it remains to be seen what will happen.
It's going to be competitive for sure. You know, King of the Hill. People say we're not worried about winning King of the Hill. Don't believe them. We have about an hour between runs, so it's great for car setup. We can come back, we can assess, you know, we can look at things, change things if we want to. We're running over the same road 3 times, so we're able to make a comparison on setup. So it's a really important thing for getting the car right for the rally.
It's a previous one before the serious one the next weekend, and I think they make it in a clever way. That's mean that we can have a proper test with the car. That's mean that we can start the engine and start everybody to be ready for the weekend after. That I talk about the spectators, and for us it's it's a good thing. So it's again very special. And I didn't drive this car for 1 year, so it's for me good to have a run on King of the Hill with so many spectators, and like I say, to be ready for next Friday.
King of the Hill, shakedown or serious competition?
Let's call it the practice run as a shakedown. From there on is flat out competition.
And you're happy with the car going into it?
Yeah, but now everything seems to be working good.
Bit of a handful?
It's a lot of a handful.
For you, is King of the Hill a shakedown for the rally the following weekend?
It's all about having fun. Yeah, I'm there to enjoy it and do what we can.
How hot do you expect to be in the car?
Yeah, pretty warm, but luckily for me, they've fitted electric windows to this car, which is a luxury I'm not normally allowed on the WRC, so they've been very, very kind to me this weekend.
Well, you know what they say, when the talking's over, it's time to put up or shut up. And what we're about to see next will decide more than just the bragging rights. So make sure you join us after the break. Welcome back to Flow King of the Hill, where we're ready to find out who really is ready. For some of the guys, this is the first time they've turned a wheel in anger in these cars for over a year, and this is where they find out if they can remember how to do it. Peter Gallagher gets the honour of leading the field away. He's from Ireland, one of 14 nations represented here this weekend. Always lots of classes and lots of variety. It's one of the main attractions of the whole festival, and how nice it is to see a Sierra on stage in entertainment mode. But of course, the Mark II is one of the mainstays of rallying at national level, and there's no shortage of them here today. That was Jim McKenna. This is Greg Cozier, also enjoying rear-wheel drive. And so is Barry Mayer's Fiesta. It's a long ways engine, a work of art under the skin, but brand new about 24 hours ago. So tried and tested, but not yet really proven. But then just look and listen. Rhett Watson has to be a favourite in the hotly contested Super Modified 3 class, but the M3 is a big car and a heavy one by comparison to some. It takes a lot to get it going, a lot to stop it again, so the tight part of the stage here isn't going to be doing it any favours. Andrew Malalou, one of several local entrants in Group N, the old showroom class of four-wheel drives. Not as spectacular as the full-blooded WRC cars, but still fast and usually pretty dependable as well, although today is all about speed. And this is Dane Skeet, part of what looks like becoming a rallying dynasty. We'll hear more about his father later on, but Dane has really got a handle on the Peugeot 306 Maxi, and he's fast becoming a force to reckon with in his own right. Super Modified 2 is going to be a very busy and very competitive class today. Roger Mayers making all the noise with the Starlet. He and Barry used to share a car, but now they've got one each. Josh Reed, another one to watch, and don't forget, this is also a round of the local rally championship, so it's a full-on needle match in every class. WRC2, the class for older World Rally cars, not to be confused with the FIA's WRC2. Roger Hill rolled the Corolla at the start of the season here, but it looks as good as new now. And this pretty much is as good as new. Rob Swan had a 10-stage outing with his new Impreza here a few weeks ago, but there's nothing like the real thing for testing a car to its limits. In competition, drivers do things to cars that would horrify their engineers and their mechanics. Never mind those of us who've never tried to make a car go 0.2 of a second faster around a corner or brake 20 metres later into a corner. So today will be a learning curve. And it doesn't matter how well prepared you are or think you are, this sport can always find a way to catch you out. Roger Skeet didn't start his practice run well. He got away better on his first timed run of the day, but he knows that you can't give away even fractions of a second in this kind of company. And on a stage this short, this looks better than practice, but it still needs to be razor sharp if he wants to keep up with the front runners. It's going well and it's looking good. And that's better, but only just. But everyone else will be upping their game as well. Simon John Joseph last sat in this car a year ago, and now he has to remember all the things it likes and all the things it doesn't like. And like a lot of people, you can expect him to get steadily faster as today goes on. Most people will be running to a plan, and that means upping the game on each of the 3 time runs. His 2:47.87 was the benchmark time after practice, but Swan has just gone faster, and now Jean Joseph needs to beat 2:47.7. Not a big difference, but he's got to be on it all the way through. Time's on the bottom of the screen. He does it. Car troubles saw Jeff Panton record a slow 2:59 in practice, and now he's left the line really slowly for his first timed run. That means he's on the back foot already. That could have been any one of several things, but it's up and running now, so hopefully it'll just have cost him those few seconds as he eased off the line. He ran a 2:59 in practice. Now he's chasing 2:46. set by Jean-Joseph, but they start at 30-second intervals, so he won't know anything about that. So he just has to drive it as hard and fast as he can. That doesn't sound very promising at all. Lots of clattering underneath the car there. 2:47.4 makes him second, and a second off the pace of Jean-Joseph. Elfyn Evans ran a very respectable 2:52 in practice. But practice is only practice, and this is when people start trying and times start to mean something. He's hugely experienced now and a regular competitor at World Championship level. He's really been looking like the genuine article for some time, and this looks like a proper run. Getting to grips with the car, getting to grips with the stages. 2:49, he's found 3 seconds he didn't have before. So with Simon Jean-Joseph a second ahead of Jeffrey Panton, Rob Swan third and Evans fourth, it's starting to get serious, and there are 2 more runs to come. So join us for the first of those after the break. You're welcome back to our coverage of Flow King of the Hill, with thousands of spectators enjoying the party atmosphere. And this is what they've come to see. Just a tad longer than 4 kilometres, the stage at Vaucluse has a little bit of everything. One practice and one timed run has uncovered some problems, but Simon Jean-Joseph is fastest so far.
Each run we are trying something, we build a plan, and each run I'm trying to drive the same to see how is the car going. So the track also is not, between first and second pass it's more dirty, so it's difficult to say, but for the moment I have a good feeling with the car.
Everyone is planning on going faster this afternoon, so he's going to need his good feeling. Greg Cozier starts his second run as the quickest of the many escorts filling up the historic entry list. Neil Corbin, fastest of the modified 1 cars. That's for the under 1600s, basically. Neil Armstrong struggling to tame a rear drive escort. He's third in super modified. Darrell Clark's leading in modified 2 after the first timed run, and these are the below 2 litre cars. Andrew Malaloo's the Group N stalwart of previous seasons and leading a class that's still as busy as ever, with half a dozen rivals looking to close the gap. And that's Roger Hill, stuck behind Mike Marshall, having car trouble. Hill was heading up WRC2, the class that gives older 4-wheel drives a place to show off their paces, but he might not be after this. Rhett Watson's M3 heads up super modified 3, a new engine in this, a little bit less horsepower, but it's the twisty parts of the stage that give him the most problems. And second in super modified 2, therefore just ahead of Neil Armstrong in the class, this is Roger Mayers, really on the right foot. Fast everywhere. And a big spin, that's not the way to get ahead. But he does get one more try. Good recovery. He wasn't leading the class. That's Josh Reed again. Last year's winner of 2-wheel drive in Seoul Rally Barbados, and just wringing the neck of the starlet. Valves bouncing everywhere he goes. This is what the spectators come here to see. Rob Swan is getting the hang of his new Impreza. He needs to improve on a 2:47 that saw him third after the first runs. He's giving it a lot of right foot, and the way these cars sort themselves out not only looks like magic, sometimes it can be, but it's cost him time. It's cost him time. He's going to be up against it now. He's going to need the final run of the day if he wants to improve. And it's hammer time for Roger Skeet. He had terrible trouble leaving the line in the practice run, and through the first time run of the day he went a lot better, but he still had problems. He's the wrong side of 6 seconds off the pace at the moment, but this is looking a lot more like the Sheriff everyone knows and loves. This one could put him there or thereabouts. Going up the hill, this is going to be close enough. Fourth quickest will do for now. Simon Jean-Joseph is top of the leaderboard going into this run, and his 2:46.33 is what everyone is shooting for, including him. And this means that this run's a write-off. Now he's going to depend on his final runs. Good job we can't hear what Jacques Boyer is saying, isn't it? But that is not what he wanted to do at this point in time. Now back on it, trying to give it the max, but this run has to be thought of as a lost cause. Just a little way to go, but he knows he's off the pace. 2:53, not what he wanted. He'll have to be sharp for the final outing. Jeff Panton had a couple of problems earlier, but it all looks good now, and this looks like being a solid run. He's on 2:47. He needs to find a second to match the target time, which is still Jean-Joseph from the previous set of time. It's the quickest of the day that counts, and it doesn't matter when it's set. That's the way to go around this corner. Panton's got that right in a way that few other people have managed. This is going to be good for Jeffrey Panton. 2:46.33, it's a dead heat, it's a tie on times. Simon Jean-Joseph did it first, so he's technically ahead of Panton, but we all want to see it settled on the final run unless Elfyn Evans can pull off the giant killing act of the century. But that is a big ask, and you get the feeling he's saving his efforts for next weekend anyway. But this is Evans, totally on it in the Fiesta. That's the way to drive that car. Just a few 100 metres to go, 2 seconds faster than he was before, only a second shy of the WRC cars, but here's a leaderboard that really sets us up for a final shootout. The two quickest drivers have set identical times on different runs, and though it's advantage Jean-Joseph, he and Panton will both be gunning for the top spot. So join us when Flo King of the Hill goes critical after the break. Welcome back to Flo King of the Hill. As you can see, it's just started raining hard at the top of the hill. And the slippery tarmac is already catching people out. Jim McCann recovered quickly from this early moment. Andrew Jones recovered quickly. Roger Hill kept it tidy, knowing there was no point taking chances. Nothing to be gained in these conditions, but even when you're not trying to do anything silly, lots of horsepower and a short wheelbase can make any car into a handful. And Josh Reed's Starlet always looks like it's every bit as much of a handful as Roger Mayer's. And even with all those diffs and electronics, Rob Swan's Impreza still needed careful handling. They're so stable and self-correcting in the dry, or at least that's what they look like from the outside, but it's still relying on 4 small palm-sized patches of rubber hanging on to wet tarmac, so no point being a hero. Roger Skeet knew he'd lost his last chance to lay down a serious challenge, and locked in a tie for first place. With the rain beginning to ease off, Simon Jean-Joseph knew he had to go out and take a look at the 4 and a bit kilometre stage, just in case Jeffrey Panton found some way to go faster. But it was still totally wet. Absolutely nothing to be gained by trying, but at least he knew that now. So last of the big WRC cars to go through this afternoon, Panton knew there was nothing to be gained, and he cruised it to the finish line as well. But who knows what might have been between these two in the dry. And not even Elfyn Evans could use the little Fiesta to improve his position, though he was second quickest on this run. He's seen this kind of weather often enough before, of course, and he's hardly likely to be put off his game by a little bit of slippery tarmac. And it was fun to watch, but almost certainly more fun to drive. Third place overall, no mean achievement for Evans and the Fiesta, but it was the tie for first place that was making all the headlines today.
No, I think it was good to have 4 different runs, you know. First run was just to check. Second, we make a few changements on the car. Third one, I did a small mistake, so good to remember that we don't have to do any mistake in this kind of sprint. And then the last run, it was good to drive on wet with a car looking more like for dry. So good for the feeling. So I think that we are now ready for next weekend for the battle.
Well, the first time run we had an issue with the front dampers. We broke both, and there was some incorrect part or something on them. We got spares on for the first time run, and we broke an axle in that. So finally in the second time run we were able to put down a time that was good enough to tie for first, and then the third time run the rain came, so we're happy with the performance.
Did you have more to go in for the final run? Did rain really spoil your plans?
Yeah, I would think so. Of course, every run through gets faster, and you learn from your mistakes, and you try and be cleaner, and you try and take corners a little faster, and a little faster, and a little faster. And that was the aim, but unfortunately the rain came. So.
But although it ended in the rain, there's no doubt that this year's Flow King of the Hill was a proper red-hot affair with a nail-biting drama for the final moments and a dead heat for first place that put Simon John-Joseph ahead of Jeffrey Panton for Sol Rally Barbados next weekend, and you can see all of that right here on Flow Sports.